The message. The message arrived on a Tuesday. Dr. Orion Patel stared at his monitor in disbelief, the strange symbols cascading down his screen like digital rain. After 15 years at the Interstellar Communication Division, he had grown accustomed to false positives, radio bursts from distant pulsars, echoes of humanity's own transmissions bouncing back from celestial bodies, or simply equipment malfunctions. But this was different. Nadine, come look at this, he called to his colleague without taking his eyes off the screen. Dr. Nadine Werner abandoned her coffee and hurried over, her eyes widening as she processed what she was seeing. Is that? Pattern recognition confirms it's non-random. The translation algorithm is already working on it. Orion's voice was barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might make the message disappear. Within hours, the ICD's quantum supercomputer had deciphered enough of the message to confirm what they suspected. It was an intentional communication from a non-human intelligence. What they hadn't expected was its urgent tone. To the curious species of Sol 3, the message began, once fully translated. We, the Coalition of Conscious Civilizations, implore you to cease your dangerous technological experimentations immediately. The remainder of the message detailed specific incidents, Project Prometheus, which had accidentally created a micro-black hole in the Kuiper Belt. The Lazarus particle tests that had briefly altered gravitational constants in a localized area of space, and most recently, the quantum entanglement network that was, according to the message, unraveling the fabric of space-time across multiple sectors. They're watching us, whispered Tomas Reyes, the youngest member of their team, his usual enthusiasm replaced by a mixture of awe and terror. More importantly, Nadine countered, they're warning us. Director Jackson Ford was less impressed when they brought him the translated message. His weathered face remained impassive as he reviewed their findings. Do you realize what you're suggesting? He finally asked, removing his glasses to rub the bridge of his nose. That some alien coalition is sending us cease and desist orders because they don't like our science experiments? Sir, with respect, Orion pressed, the incidents they reference are classified. The Prometheus project was never made public. How would anyone outside the highest levels of government know about these things? A leak, a hack, an educated guess. There are plenty of terrestrial explanations that don't require little green men, Ford countered. The message originated from the direction of Barnard's star, Nadine interjected. We've triple-checked. It's genuine. Ford's expression softened slightly. Look, I believe that you believe this is real. But the world isn't ready for this kind of announcement, especially with the message essentially telling us to stop all our advanced research. Not all research, Orion corrected. Just the experiments that risk destabilizing reality as we know it. Like the quantum mirror project? Tomas added quietly. The room fell silent. The quantum mirror was the brainchild of Horizon Technologies, a private corporation with more wealth than many nations. Their experiment, scheduled to activate in 3 days, would attempt to create a stable portal to what theorists called adjacent probabilities, essentially parallel universes. That's not our concern, Ford finally said. Horizon has all the necessary approvals. Their safety protocols are entirely theoretical, Orion finished. Director, we need to take this warning to the World Science Council immediately. Ford's jaw tightened. What we need is more verification before creating a global panic. Continue analyzing the message. If you find concrete evidence that can't be explained any other way, I'll reconsider. As the team left Ford's office, Nadine grabbed Orion's arm. He's not going to help us, is he? Orion shook his head. Too many political complications. Horizon's CEO plays golf with half the council members. So what do we do? Tomas asked, his young face etched with concern. Before Orion could answer, his tablet chimed with an alert. A second message was coming through, using the same frequency and encoding as the first. This one was shorter but unmistakably more urgent. Final warning to Sol 3. The quantum mirror will create an irreparable dimensional fracture. The consequences extend beyond your comprehension. You have 70 hours to abort. That night, while the world slept unaware of the cosmic warning, Orion made the decision that would change everything. If official channels wouldn't listen, he would take the message directly to the public. This could end our careers, Nadine cautioned as they prepared the data package for global release. If the aliens are right about the quantum mirror, we might not have careers to worry about, Tomas pointed out grimly. Orion uploaded the translated messages and supporting analysis to every major news outlet and scientific institution worldwide. Then, as dawn broke over the ICD compound, he sent one final communication to Horizon Technologies directly. The response was swift and predictable. By mid-morning, security personnel were escorting Orion, Nadine, and Tomas from the building. By afternoon, government officials were denouncing the hoax, and Horizon was reassuring the public about their revolutionary and completely safe experiment. As the sun set on that chaotic day, the three scientists gathered in Orion's apartment, watching the news cycle already beginning to move on from their revelation. They're not going to stop the experiment, are they? Tomas asked, though he already knew the answer. Humanity never could resist pushing buttons labeled, "Do not push," Nadine said with resigned bitterness. Orion stared out the window at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Maybe that's why the coalition sent the warning. Not because they thought we'd listen, but because they needed to say they tried. 48 hours later, as the quantum mirror powered up in Horizon's desert facility, Dr. Orion Patel wondered if the universe would forgive humanity's hubris, or if some warnings were simply destiny unheard. The consequence. Captain Lyra Daniels stared at the shimmering distortion that hung in space like a wound in reality itself. The viewport of the UNSS Pathfinder offered a perfect view of the phenomenon that scientists had taken to calling the fracture. It had been 3 months since Horizon Technologies activated the quantum mirror, ignoring the alien warnings that most of humanity had dismissed as an elaborate hoax. Still no change in the dimensional readings, reported Lieutenant Victor Zhao from his monitoring station. The fracture's diameter has expanded another 7 kilometers since yesterday. Lyra nodded grimly. And the energy signatures? Fluctuating, but increasing on average. It's like watching a battery slowly charge, Victor replied. Commander Julian Marcos joined them at the viewport, his normally cheerful demeanor subdued. Maintenance reports that the shield reinforcements are complete. We can withstand the radiation bursts for up to 48 hours now, but that won't matter if the fracture keeps growing, Lyra finished for him. The unspoken truth hung between them. At its current rate of expansion, the fracture would engulf Earth's orbit within 6 months. The quantum mirror experiment had worked, in a manner of speaking. For approximately 3 minutes, Horizon had achieved what they claimed was a stable connection to another dimension. Then something went catastrophically wrong. Energy cascaded through the connection, destroying the facility and creating a rift that now threatened the entire solar system. What remained of Horizon's research team insisted that the accident couldn't have been predicted. Dr. Orion Patel and his colleagues from the ICD, now heading the International Response Team, strongly disagreed. Captain, the communications officer called out, "We're receiving a transmission from Lunar Base. Dr. Patel is requesting a video conference with you immediately." Lyra straightened her uniform. "Put him through to my ready room." Dr. Patel's haggard face appeared on the screen moments later. The once composed scientist now looked like he'd aged a decade in 3 months. Behind him, Lyra could see Nadine Werner working frantically at a console. "Captain Daniels, thank you for your prompt response," Patel began. "We've had a development." "Have you found a way to seal the fracture?" Lyra asked, not daring to hope. "No, but we've received another communication from the coalition." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. "What do they say?" "They're sending a delegation. A ship will arrive at the edge of our solar system in approximately 17 hours. They've requested a meeting. To help us?" Patel's expression was unreadable. "That remains unclear. But they specifically asked for you to be present as Earth's representative." "Me? Why not someone from the World Council?" The message was explicit. "They want to meet with the captain of the vessel monitoring the fracture. They seem to respect your—" He paused, searching for the words, "position of observation. You've been watching, learning, not interfering with the fracture despite the temptation to try untested solutions." Lyra considered this. "Do we have any reason to trust them?" "They warned us about this exact scenario, Captain. That gives them considerable credibility." Patel's eyes flickered to something off-screen. "There's more. They're bringing someone they call a Minder, apparently a specialist in repairing dimensional damage." The conference concluded with Lyra receiving coordinates for the rendezvous. As she briefed her senior officers, the mood in the Pathfinder's conference room was tense. "This could be first contact with a benevolent alien species," Victor said, attempting to inject some optimism. "Or it could be an execution," countered Security Chief Esme Rivera. "We ignored their warnings and created a mess that threatens more than just our world. What if they're coming to enact some kind of cosmic justice?" Julian leaned forward. "If they wanted us eliminated, They could have left us to the fracture's eventual expansion. The fact that they're coming suggests they see value in communication, possibly assistance. Julian's right, Lyra decided. We prepare for diplomatic contact. Esme, I want security protocols at level 2. Alert but not aggressive. Victor, prepare all our data on the fracture for sharing. Julian, you'll accompany me to the meeting. 17 hours later, the Pathfinder waited at the designated coordinates. The alien vessel appeared without warning. No warp signature, no distortion field, simply an elegant crystalline structure that hadn't been there a moment before. It's beautiful, Julian whispered as they observed from the shuttle that would take them to the meeting point, a neutral location in open space between the two vessels. The meeting chamber materialized around them as they reached the coordinates, a transparent bubble that seemed to exist in both normal space and somewhere else simultaneously. Inside waited 3 beings that defied easy description. Their forms appeared to shift subtly, as if they existed partially in dimensions humans couldn't perceive. Captain Lyra Daniels spoke the central figure, its voice resonating directly in her mind. I am Emissary Nyx. We are the representatives of the Coalition of Conscious Civilizations. Thank you for coming, Lyra responded, fighting to maintain her composure. We need your help. Yes, agreed Nyx. Your species ignored our warnings, but we understand that your governance structures made unified action difficult. The smallest of the 3 beings floated forward. I am Minder Thelios. I can repair the dimensional fracture, but there is a condition. Julian tensed beside her, but Lyra kept her voice steady. What condition? Integration, said Nyx. Your world must join the coalition and abide by the cosmic protocols. No species can be allowed to experiment with forces that threaten the fabric of reality without oversight. Lyra considered the implications. Earth would lose some autonomy but gain access to the wisdom and technology of countless advanced civilizations. I cannot make this decision for all of humanity, she finally said. We understand, Nyx replied. But as witness to the fracture, you can speak to its danger. We offer you the role of Earth's first representative to the coalition to help your people understand what is at stake. As Thelios began the complex process of mending reality, Lyra watched in awe. The fracture slowly began to seal, the wounded space-time healing under extraterrestrial care. 6 months later, Captain Lyra Daniels stood before the newly formed Earth Cooperation Council, with Dr. Orion Patel and his team beside her. Behind them sat Emissary Nyx and other coalition representatives. The fracture is sealed, she informed the assembled leaders, but the lesson remains. We were warned once and didn't listen. The coalition has offered us a second chance, not as subjects, but as partners in ensuring the stability of our shared cosmos. As humanity took its first tentative steps into a larger community of civilizations, Lyra couldn't help but wonder what other warnings throughout history had gone unheeded. Perhaps listening was the most important technology of all. I understand you'd like me to create a 3rd part with a conclusion for the story. While I originally outlined just 2 parts as requested, I'll create a 3rd part to bring the story to a satisfying conclusion. Part 3. The Covenant. The integration of Earth into the coalition of conscious civilizations proceeded more smoothly than anyone could have anticipated. In the 3 years since the fracture incident, humanity had embraced its role as the newest member of the galactic community with remarkable adaptability. Captain Lyra Daniels, now Ambassador Daniels, stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the massive orbital platform constructed with coalition technology at the Earth-Moon Lagrange point. Behind her, Julian Marcos approached with 2 crystalline glasses containing a luminescent blue liquid. Nectar from the gardens of Proxima Centauri B, Julian explained, offering her one. The arborists insisted you try it before tomorrow's ceremony. Lyra accepted the glass with a smile. 3 years ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Now I'm drinking alien beverages and preparing to sign a multi-species technological accord. The Prometheus Covenant, Julian said, raising his glass. May it prevent future fractures, both literal and metaphorical. They clinked glasses and turned to watch Earth rotating below them, its night side glittering with the lights of civilization, now intermingled with the distinct azure glow of coalition energy infrastructure. Have you spoken with Dr. Patel? Julian asked after a moment. This morning, the New Horizon Institute is ready to unveil their first prototype, a clean energy source that doesn't violate any of the cosmic protocols. Dr. Orion Patel had transformed from pariah to prophet after the fracture event, His insistence on heeding the alien warning, though initially ignored, had earned him respect that translated into leadership of humanity's premier research organization dedicated to responsible technological advancement. You know, Julian mused, sometimes I wonder what would have happened if the original warning had been delivered differently. If instead of sending it only to the ICD, they had broadcast it globally. Would we have listened? Lyra shook her head. Humanity has always had a complicated relationship with warnings. We put skull and crossbone symbols on poisons, then use the same symbol as fashion statements. Julian laughed softly. Fair point. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Victor Zhao, now Lyra's chief of staff. His expression was serious. Ambassador, we've received word from the Coalition Council. The representatives from the Andromeda sectors have arrived early. They're requesting a preliminary meeting before tomorrow's ceremony. Lyra nodded. Of course. Have preparations made in the diplomatic suite. As Victor departed, Julian gave Lyra a questioning look. The Andromedans weren't supposed to arrive until tomorrow. Why the rush? I suspect they want to discuss the veil, Lyra replied quietly. The veil was the Coalition's term for a disturbing phenomenon detected at the outer edges of the Andromeda galaxy, a gradual thinning of the barriers between dimensions similar to what had occurred with the fracture, but on a vastly larger scale. Unlike Earth's self-inflicted wound, this one appeared to be naturally occurring, or at least not directly attributable to any known civilization's actions. They think we might have insight because of our experience with the fracture, Julian surmised. Perhaps. Or perhaps they're concerned about our reliability, given our history. Lyra finished her drink. Either way, it's a reminder that we're part of something much larger now. Our actions have consequences that extend far beyond our solar system. Hours later, Lyra sat across from 3 Andromedan representatives in the diplomatic suite. Their forms were more substantial than those of emissary Nyx's species, resembling luminous jellyfish with complex neural patterns visible through translucent tissue. The situation is deteriorating faster than our models predicted, explained first speaker Luminera, her thoughts translated into English by the neural interface all Coalition representatives wore. The veil continues to thin at an exponential rate. What are your scientists suggesting? Lyra asked. Containment, primarily. But containment of a dimensional breach of this magnitude would require resources beyond what even the Coalition can muster. Luminera's neural patterns pulsed with what Lyra had learned to recognize as concern. Second speaker Thalos added, which is why we've come to discuss the Prometheus Covenant. Specifically, the human contribution. Lyra maintained her diplomatic composure, though she felt a flutter of apprehension. The quantum resonance stabilizer is still theoretical technology. Dr. Patel's team has only managed to create small-scale prototypes. Yet it represents an approach none of our civilizations considered, Luminera countered. Humans have a unique way of conceptualizing dimensional space, perhaps because you were isolated for so long, developing your theoretical physics without outside influence. Third speaker Morven, who had remained silent until now, pulsed with a pattern indicating decisive thought. We propose accelerating the development timeline for the stabilizer technology. With Coalition resources behind it, and Dr. Patel's insights leading the way, we believe it could be deployed against the veil within 18 months. The irony wasn't lost on Lyra. The same species that had nearly torn a hole in reality with their reckless experimentation might now hold the key to preventing a natural disaster of cosmic proportions. I'll speak with Dr. Patel, she promised. But I must emphasize that accelerating experimental technology carries risks, precisely the kind of risks the Covenant is designed to mitigate. Indeed, agreed Luminera. However, the Covenant also emphasizes proportional response to existential threats. The veil qualifies as such. The next morning, as global leaders and Coalition representatives gathered for the signing ceremony, Lyra found herself standing beside Dr. Orion Patel at the viewport, watching the Earth rise over the lunar horizon. The Andromedans approached me as well, Patel said without preamble. They want the stabilizer technology. Can it work on the scale they need? Lyra asked. Theoretically, yes. With Coalition manufacturing capabilities and energy resources, we could scale it up. Patel's expression was troubled. But I can't guarantee it won't create unforeseen consequences. The very thing we're trying to prevent with the Covenant. Exactly. Yet if we do nothing, the veil continues to expand. Lyra considered this dilemma. When the Coalition first warned us about the quantum mirror, we ignored them because we thought we knew better. Now we're being asked to accelerate an experimental technology because it might be the only solution. Different circumstances, Patel noted. But similar arrogance if we assume we can control the outcome perfectly. The ceremony began with representatives from over 50 Earth nations and 37 extraterrestrial civilizations gathering around the circular signing table. The Prometheus Covenant, named for the mythological figure who gave fire to humanity despite knowing the risks it posed, was displayed holographically above them. When it came time for Lyra to speak as Earth's representative, she stood with newfound resolve. 3 years ago, a message came to Earth, a warning that we chose to ignore. The consequence was the fracture, a wound in reality that nearly destroyed our world. Today, we sign this covenant not just as a promise to exercise caution in our technological advancement, but as a commitment to listen to each other, to the universe, and to the warnings it sends us. She paused, looking at the assembled representatives. As we face new challenges like the Veil, let us remember that our greatest strength lies not in rushing forward blindly, but in moving forward together, with wisdom and humility. The universe speaks to us constantly. Our task is to listen well enough to hear it. As the covenant was signed and celebrations began, Lyra found herself once again standing with Julian, watching Earth rotate below. So, he said quietly, what will you tell the Andromedans about the stabilizer? That will help develop it, but under the full oversight of the coalition, with representatives from all member species participating in every stage. No shortcuts, no assumptions, no arrogance. Julian nodded. A middle path. The only sustainable one. Lyra smiled. Perhaps that's the real lesson here. Not that we should stop exploring or advancing, but that we should do so with open eyes and open ears, knowing that in this vast universe, we are neither the first nor the last to face these challenges. As the lights of Earth mingled with the stars beyond, Ambassador Lyra Daniels felt something she hadn't experienced since before the fracture, hope. Not the blind optimism of those who believe technology alone can solve every problem, but the measured hope of someone who has learned that the universe offers both warnings and wonders, if only we have the wisdom to recognize them. In the vast expanse of space, where countless civilizations had risen and fallen, humanity had finally learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, the greatest progress comes not from forging ahead, but from pausing long enough to listen.